Breaking news right now, Larry. I am just getting word. People magazine says it's got a source on the inside that tells them that P. Diddy's on suicide watch tonight. Do your sources confer the same information? Are they saying it was possible?
Yeah, he is on suicide watch. This guy thought he would have went home. All of a sudden, he didn't get bond. Remember, the first night that he was there, he was like an overnight guest. When they told his bond hearing, now they checked him into the system, and reality has hit him. And I understand that he has a shrink coming by his cell to see him several times a day. They have housing units, and they're mixing bank robbers, drug dealers, rapists with white-collar people. And this is why Diddy, he can't go into a regular housing unit, because somebody will take him out for sure.
What happens when one of the richest, most powerful men in entertainment finds himself at the mercy of prison life? The once untouchable Diddy is now trapped in a world where wealth and fame mean nothing, and his fellow inmates aren't letting him forget it. Reports have surfaced that prisoners are taking revenge on Diddy, not just by targeting him with threats and violence, but by exploiting every chance to strip him of the rights and luxuries he once took for granted. But how did it come to this? How does a man who lived a life of unimaginable privilege find himself scrubbing toilets, eating tasteless prison food, and fearing for his safety every single day? It's not just the guards enforcing the rules. Diddy is dealing with a power struggle inside the prison walls, and the inmates are making sure he knows he's no different from anyone else.
Combs allegedly planned and controlled the performances, which he called freak-offs, and he often electronically recorded them.
Prosecutors say Combs punched and kicked his victims to try to keep them under control. He'd also, they say, filled them up with drugs like ketamine and ecstasy for long periods of times, even using incriminating records to try to manipulate his victims. Prosecutors say they discovered this wide range of evidence against Combs in several raids. They found things, they say, like AR-15s, narcotics, more than 1,000 bottles of baby oil and lubricants.
In this video, we'll break down the shocking ways Diddy's fellow prisoners are taking their revenge, the brutal conditions he's enduring, and the psychological toll it's taking on him. From losing his lavish lifestyle to the harsh realities of solitary confinement, Diddy's life in prison is a far cry from the billionaire's throne he once sat on. By the end of this, you'll see how even the wealthiest and most famous can fall, and why Diddy's story is as much a cautionary tale as it is an inside look at the harsh, unrelenting nature of life behind bars. Stay with us, it's a story you don't want to miss.
Sean, Diddy Combs is filing a massive defamation lawsuit over alleged tapes involving the music star, other celebrities, and minors. Lawsuit accuses Courtney Burgess, a witness who testified in front of a grand jury, that she possessed those tapes, her lawyer Ariel Mitchell, and her parent company Nexstar Media. It accuses Burgess and the Mitchell of maliciously spreading lies, knowing that the alleged sex tapes did not exist, and our partners at News Nation of repeating that same false information. Burgess and her lawyer Mitchell did not immediately respond to the claims. Combs is seeking $50 million in damages. So our chief legal analyst, Khalif Rhodes, joins us now to discuss this. So what does Combs have to legally prove here in this case going forward?
Well, because he's a public figure, he has to do more than the normal. The normal would be that if it was against, a person on the street and they alleged that you made a false statement against him and you have defamed him, you'd have to know or should have known that the statement was false and that you actually made it. That's the standard. But it's raised a little bit when the person is a public figure. Combs is a public figure. So now, not only did they know or should have known that it was false and did they actually make the statement, but there also has to be something called actual malice. Not only did I know it was false, but I intended to do some harm by making these false statements. If you don't have all three, and that's an extremely high burden in these types of cases, you really don't stand a chance to be successful on the merits in these types of cases. I think probably the most recent one that was successful was Cardi B. There was a social media person making negative statements about her that she knew were false, and she was making those statements with the full intention of harming Cardi B's character. She was successful in a lawsuit against her. I think that is the extremely high burden that oftentimes celebrities aren't able to overcome, and that's why these types of claims don't really go anywhere.
The fall from grace, Diddy's journey to incarceration, Sean Diddy Combs' meteoric rise to fame is a quintessential rags to riches story. From humble beginnings, Diddy transformed himself into a cultural icon and multi-billionaire mogul, wielding influence across music, fashion, and media. His empire represented the pinnacle of success, epitomizing luxury, power, and an untouchable aura. Known for his opulent lifestyle, Diddy often flaunted his wealth through private jets, sprawling mansions, and extravagant parties attended by the who's who of the entertainment industry. His ascent to the top made him an emblem of ambition and success, a symbol of what was possible for those with determination and vision. However, this gilded image shattered as Diddy found himself entangled in legal troubles that would culminate in his incarceration. A series of allegations and lawsuits unearthed a darker side to his persona, tarnishing his carefully curated reputation. Accusations of racketeering, assault, and coercion painted a stark contrast to his public persona. The legal fallout was swift and unrelenting, with high-profile lawsuits bringing his empire under intense scrutiny. His imprisonment marked a dramatic shift, stripping him of the luxuries he once took for granted and thrusting him into the unforgiving world of the penal system.
There's really no deal that the U.S. Attorney's Office can offer, and it's certainly not one that Diddy will accept. It would involve decades in federal prison. We're talking about mandatory minimum sentences of 10 years for both the drug charges and the sex trafficking. So we know that Diddy has fought charges before. There were state charges, there were gun-related, the nightclub shooting with J-Lo, but he's going to dig in his heels, and this case is going to trial. So if you're prosecutors, you really want to make sure that your evidence is bulletproof before you go down that route.
Entering the harsh world of prison, a jarring adjustment. The transition from Diddy's life of opulence to the harsh realities of incarceration was nothing short of shocking. The immediate loss of autonomy struck the hardest. Every decision, no matter how small, was now dictated by the institution. The stark environment of the prison system quickly replaced the freedom and luxury he had long enjoyed. From wearing standard-issue prison attire to adhering to strict schedules, the adjustment was a humbling experience for someone accustomed to
We are learning in just the last few minutes that a federal judge is now refusing to grant Sean Diddy Combs bail. Instead, he's going straight to jail tonight after Diddy pleaded not guilty to charges of trafficking and racketeering. Want to show you some of these brand new court sketches coming into us, like literally in the last 90 seconds. This is Combs in court after prosecutors arrested him at a hotel in Manhattan. It's where he's apparently been living for weeks, according to what a person familiar with the move tells NBC News. All of it a tipping point now in that sprawling federal investigation into the superstar's alleged years of sex crimes dating back to 2009. As we're just getting in some new and deeply disturbing details about the allegations against him and what looks like a massive criminal operation, allegedly. At least 50 victims and witnesses so far. And at the center of it, these hours and days-long sex acts known as, in their words, freak-offs that Combs supposedly orchestrated to abuse his victims.
Prison regulations further underscored the jarring nature of his new reality. Personal possessions were limited to the bare essentials, and regular inspections ensured no contraband could be hoarded. Commissary spending was capped at $160 every 2 weeks, a far cry from Diddy's previous unlimited access to wealth. This restriction extended to the quality of food, with nutritionally minimal meals replacing the gourmet cuisine he once enjoyed. Such limitations highlighted the stark disparity between his former lifestyle and his current circumstances.
Sued a news agency and a grand jury witness for defamation. The $50 million lawsuit claims that Courtney Burgess, who is a witness subpoenaed to testify in front of a grand jury against Combs, repeatedly spread false information that he had videos of Combs participating in the sexual assault of minors and celebrities. Combs' legal team says the videos do not exist. The lawsuit also includes News Nation's parent company, Nexstar Media, alleging that the network promoted Burgess's claim on air. The lawsuit claims the defendants fueled a, quote, media frenzy that will prevent Combs from having a fair trial. Combs is set to go on trial for racketeering, trafficking, and fraud or coercion starting May the 5th. He's pleaded not guilty.
Life in the Special Housing Unit, SHU, isolation and psychological strain. For Diddy, incarceration was not just a physical challenge, but also a profound psychological one. Placed in the Special Housing Unit (SHU) for protective custody, he faced a unique set of difficulties. While the SHU is designed to shield high-profile inmates from potential threats, it imposes severe isolation that takes a significant toll on mental health. Diddy's days in solitary confinement were marked by long hours of silence, minimal human interaction, and unrelenting monotony. The conditions within the SHU were stark and unyielding. His cell was bare, furnished only with a bolted bed, a small sink, and a toilet. A harsh fluorescent light illuminated the space, robbing it of any sense of comfort or individuality. Surveillance cameras monitored his every move, reinforcing the sense of being under constant scrutiny. These conditions, while intended to maintain control, exacerbated feelings of loneliness and helplessness.
And whenever I have questions about what it's like on the inside, I call Larry Levine. He spent 10 years in federal prison, 10 holiday seasons, and now runs Wall Street Prison Consultants. His brand new book is Crimes That Never Happened, Beating Federal Conspiracies, which is available on Amazon and everywhere. And he's live with me now. Hey, Larry, it's great to see you. Happy holidays to you. I'm glad you chose the festive backdrop. Thank you for that. I want to ask you about refusing meals. Diddy is apparently refusing meals. I don't know if it's all of them, but he's refusing some of them, and he's been reportedly looking a lot thinner. Why would that be?
Maybe he doesn't like the cuisine, or maybe now that he's actually in a dormitory unit, he's not living in his cell. Well, he's living in the cell, but he's not in there all day long. Now he can buy items at the commissary, and because of that, he may be making his own food. He probably has access to a microwave oven, or maybe like boiling hot water, and they make burritos and different things. He doesn't want to eat the prison food, I suppose, because he's scared somebody's going to put something in it. I've said this before. That's the way to get to this guy. Poison his food, turn him off like a light switch, and he can't testify against anyone.
Prisoner's revenge, the targeting of high-profile inmates. High-profile inmates like Diddy often find themselves in precarious situations within the prison system. His wealth, fame, and the nature of his charges made him an attractive target for other inmates seeking to elevate their own status. In the world behind bars, harming or humiliating a celebrity can be seen as a badge of honor, a way to gain respect or notoriety among peers. Prison status games only heightened the risks for Diddy. The volatile environment of the correctional facility, rife with endemic violence and inadequate supervision, left him vulnerable to potential attacks. Incidents of assault and stabbings were alarmingly frequent, with inmates often gaining access to improvised weapons. For someone like Diddy, even the perception of privilege could fuel resentment and animosity among fellow inmates.
We've got the pretzels, we've got corn nuts, we've got a knockoff candy bar I've never heard of before. Here's some potato chips. Here's the cookies again. I mean, there's like 7 or 8 items in there. Some of them are garbage. But the inmates use this as currency. They trade among each other, and the inmates use it when they're playing cards to pay off, their gambling debts and such. So I've had really good holidays.
What's interesting, though, is you said, when we were talking earlier, you said they get like a bag of chips or a bag of pretzels, but they don't get name brand. They get very inexpensive. And then they mark them up 30%, and that's the trust fund that they put together. The profits go to a trust fund to pay for the goodie bags later on in the year.
It's like the shrink. There's certain employees of the Bureau of Prisons that the trust fund pays for. So essentially, the inmates are paying for the salaries of BOP staff members. It's crazy. And then when the inmates want things, they say, well, we don't have money for that. They used to hand out holiday cards for the inmates, but it turns out they were charging us for them, and the Salvation Army donated those. So everything you hear and see is a hoax.
The psychological toll, living under constant threat. The psychological strain of living under constant threat is one of the most profound challenges of incarceration, particularly for high-profile inmates like Diddy. The knowledge that he was a target, coupled with the ever-present possibility of violence, likely created an atmosphere of paranoia and unease. Even in protective custody, the fear of harm lingered, further exacerbating the mental toll of his confinement. Social withdrawal became an unavoidable reality. The minimal human interaction afforded by isolation compounded feelings of loneliness and despair. For someone someone like Diddy, accustomed to a life of constant engagement and influence, this lack of connection was a harsh adjustment. The absence of meaningful interaction further deepened the psychological strain, leaving him to grapple with his thoughts in solitude.
I want to bring in Larry Levine. He is a former federal prisoner who served time at 11 institutions of various security levels in 5 different states, and he now advises people who are about to go to prison as the founder and director of Wall Street Prison Consultants. And of course, he's a friend of the show. So breaking news right now, Larry, I am just getting word. People magazine says it's got a source on the inside that tells them that P. Diddy's on suicide watch tonight. Do your sources confer the same information? Are they saying it was possible?
Hey, real quickly, all that commissary stuff, he's not getting any of that because people in the SHU have an abbreviated list. So he's out of luck. No stake for him. Yeah, he is on suicide watch. This guy thought he would have went home. All of a sudden, he didn't get bond. Remember, the first night that he was there, he was like an overnight guest. When they told his bond hearing, now they checked him into the system, and reality has hit him. And I understand that he has a shrink coming by his cell to see him several times a day. And now there's talk about putting him in, it's like a bubble. It's like a cell that has like a plexiglass wall in it where they have inmates watching you. That's actually their job, to keep an eye on the inmates that are on suicide watch. Another error that I guess some warden told you this.
Dehumanizing conditions, a world of scarcity and neglect. The physical conditions of the correctional facility where Diddy was housed painted a grim picture of neglect and deprivation. Reports of mold-infested showers, broken plumbing, and unsanitary living spaces highlighted the systemic issues plaguing the prison. Inmates were often left to contend with unresolved maintenance issues, creating an environment that was not only uncomfortable but also hazardous.
News tonight, Sean Diddy Combs has been arrested in a Manhattan hotel this evening after a grand jury indicted the music mogul. His attorney tells CNN that he is currently being processed. The charges are unclear as of this moment. Joining us now is CNN's entertainment reporter Elizabeth Wagmeister, and also with us CNN chief legal correspondent Ellie Honig. Elizabeth, you were a big part of revealing some details about Diddy's conduct in private over the course of the last couple of months. That video led to a lot more scrutiny on what he has been accused of. What do we know at this point about what this case might ultimately be about?
Abby, at the moment, we don't know what the charges are. I have information that he was arrested tonight at a Manhattan hotel. He is currently being processed. I heard from his attorney, they are still maintaining his innocence. They said that in anticipation of these charges, that Diddy relocated to New York last week.
Food quality was another stark indicator of the dehumanizing conditions. Nutritionally minimal and often unpalatable, meals served in the facility stood in stark contrast to the gourmet offerings Diddy once enjoyed. This disparity underscored the loss of privilege and the humbling nature of incarceration. Commissary options provided limited relief, but spending caps further restricted access to even basic comforts. The lack of resources extended to intellectual and recreational activities. Access to books, entertainment, and educational tools was severely limited, leaving inmates with few opportunities for growth or enrichment. This scarcity of resources, combined with the physical hardships of the environment, created a sense of hopelessness that pervaded daily life.
Diddy Combs has been denied bail in connection with the sexual abuse and trafficking charges he faces. And as Les Trump reports, the music mogul who once traveled by private jet to all those mansions is now in a jail that is notorious for its bad living conditions.
Music mogul Sean Diddy Combs spent his first night behind bars inside a facility that is being called Hell on Earth. The Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn is notorious for its appalling living conditions and rampant violence. How bad is it inside this federal lockup? There have been 2 murders, 4 suicides, and numerous stabbings and lockdowns in recent years. It's so out of control inside that 4 federal judges are reportedly refusing to send any more prisoners here. Donald Trump's former fixer, Michael Cohen, spent a harrowing year in federal custody. He says for someone used to a life of luxury like Diddy, prison life is a severe shock.
You have a desk, you have a plastic chair, you have your bed with a 1.5-inch mattress, no pillow, and you also have a locker. So you basically have 3 feet by 5 feet to move around. So you have a basic 15 square feet. It is a horrible, horrible place.
Diddy's lawyers were so eager to keep him out of jail, they offered his palatial $48 million home in Miami Beach and his private jets as bail. Today, they are even offering to restrict female visitors to his homes, except for his mother, daughters, and the mothers of his children if he is released.
Inmate dynamics, revenge and resentment. Life in prison operates under its own set of rules and dynamics, where wealth and status outside the facility often translate into vulnerability within it. For Diddy, his immense wealth and previously untouchable image created resentment among fellow inmates. Many viewed him as a symbol of privilege, amplifying hostility toward him. This resentment stemmed not only from jealousy, but also from a deep-seated disdain for those who once lived above the rules of the everyday world.
Disgraced music mogul Sean Diddy Combs, once known for his lavish lifestyle and living large in his multi-million-dollar mansions, has a new home as he awaits trial in his federal sex trafficking case. Last week, the Bad Boy Founder's defense team unsuccessfully fought to keep the music producer out of federal jail after his arrest. Now his new digs once house other high-profile inmates, including R. Kelly, Fetty Wap, Sam Bankman-Fried, and Ghislaine Maxwell. Diddy is currently housed at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, New York, a stark difference from the glitz, glamour, and wealth in Hollywood and Star Island in Miami Beach, Florida. But MDC Brooklyn has been described as hell on earth, with horrifying conditions. The facility, which now houses Diddy, opened in the early 90s and is the only federal jail in New York City after the Bureau of Prisons closed its Metropolitan Correctional Center in 2021 after many issues came to light in the wake of Jeffrey Epstein's suicide just 2 years earlier.
Inmates often find ways to assert dominance through cliques and gangs that dictate much of the social hierarchy within prison walls. For someone like Diddy, navigating this environment meant walking a fine line between maintaining his dignity and avoiding unnecessary confrontation. His fame might have granted him a unique position, but it also made him an outsider in an ecosystem that thrives on conformity and shared struggle.
And we now know what he's been charged with. The federal indictment against him was unsealed during a court hearing yesterday. Diddy is charged with trafficking, racketeering, and transportation to engage in prostitution. These charges come as Diddy also faces several lawsuits accusing him of assault and misconduct. A judge denied his bond request, but his lawyers will be back in court today for a bail appeal hearing.
The legal battle, struggles for bail and justice. Despite proposing a staggering $50 million bail, Diddy's request for release was denied, leaving him to endure the harsh conditions of prison while awaiting trial. The decision underscored the gravity of the charges against him and the court's unwillingness to grant him preferential treatment, despite his immense wealth. This denial marked a significant setback for his legal team, which had argued that the prison conditions were inhumane and detrimental to his well-being.
When you are on suicide watch, first of all, they're taking your shoestrings. And this is because you're in this before you get admitted. So this is pre-admission, pre-classification. Right. You're still in your regular clothes. You haven't switched into a jumpsuit. And so you still have your regular shoes. They're taking the shoestrings. They're taking anything that you could potentially harm yourself. They're taking your clothes. They're changing you into some other type of gear where you can't harm yourself. So if you were literally about to leave and you're making those types of comments, now you've just delayed yourself by maybe a few hours, if not a few days. And so that process, I've seen it happen where a person was just making kind of crazy comments. Well, you don't know if they're serious or not. And so if you're making a comment about, I am intending to harm myself, I'm gonna take every situation if it's serious, and then we'll determine later that it wasn't.
Now, TMZ is reporting that they spoke to Diddy's attorney, who then said that his client is not suicidal. In fact, he went on to be able to make a statement saying he's not suicidal, calling him strong, confident, and focused on his defense. So you're a defense attorney. Is that protecting your client? And the other question I have for you, if you can just address this real quick, is
public perception played a significant role in shaping the narrative surrounding Diddy's incarceration. While some viewed his imprisonment as a necessary consequence of justice, others questioned whether his treatment was excessively punitive due to his celebrity status. Media coverage and public discourse further fueled the debate, with opinions ranging from sympathy to outright condemnation.
Next tonight, just before we came on the air, a judge in New York denied music mogul Sean Combs' request for bail, saying Combs is potentially dangerous to the community. It's the fourth time Combs has been denied release. He's been in jail since his arrest in September on sex trafficking and racketeering charges, and he's likely to stay there until his trial in May. Combs has entered a plea of not guilty.
A sobering reality, the equalizing force of prison. Incarceration serves as a powerful equalizer, stripping even the wealthiest and most influential individuals of their autonomy. For Diddy, the experience was a stark reminder that no amount of wealth or fame could shield him from the realities of the prison system. The loss of privilege was evident in every aspect of his daily life, from the food he ate to the clothes he wore. The contrast between his former life and his current circumstances was profound. The opulence and influence that once defined him were replaced by a life of austerity and routine. This transformation highlighted the unforgiving nature of the prison system, which seeks to reduce individuals to their most basic state of existence. For Diddy, this meant confronting a reality devoid of comfort, individuality, or escape. Reflections and takeaways. Lessons from Diddy's experience. Diddy's incarceration shines a light on the systemic flaws and harsh realities of the prison system, prompting discussions about the need for reform. The deplorable conditions, lack of resources, and psychological toll faced by inmates are issues that extend far beyond Diddy's case, affecting countless individuals within the system. His high-profile status amplifies these concerns, bringing them to the forefront of public discourse.
It's this detention center in Brooklyn, and he is in this very special portion of the facility that offers an extra layer of security for high-profile individuals who could be targeted among the general population. And that could mean that he's limited to facilities like the library and the phone, so could make it hard, his lawyers are saying, for him to be able to prepare for trial. And because of all of this, Combs' attorney is actually asking for him to be moved to a New Jersey jail. But a judge said that that's ultimately going to be up to the Bureau of Prisons to decide. I mean, he can continue to appeal this and can appeal the bond, right? But you saw it with Ghislaine Maxwell. She continued to appeal and was not successful. Now 2 federal judges saying, you got to stay behind bars.
The psychological impact of isolation and neglect serves as a sobering reminder of the toll incarceration takes on mental health. For Diddy, the transition from a life of influence to one of confinement was not only a humbling experience, but also a deeply transformative one. Whether this transformation leads to personal growth or enduring trauma remains to be seen, but it underscores the importance of considering humanity within the justice system. Diddy's journey from luxury to lockdown is a stark reminder of how quickly fortunes can change. We've seen how prisoners are taking revenge, how he's struggling to adjust, and the brutal toll this new life is taking on him. It's a powerful story about accountability, survival, and the harsh reality of prison life. If you found this story as gripping as we did, make sure to give this video a like, subscribe to the channel for more in-depth content, and let us know your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.